In this video, we're learning the switch statement in JavaScript and how it helps us build simple interactive websites. Now, this is an expansion on conditionals using if else, and else, and it could be an alternative that might work better in certain situations. So first, I want to go over a problem that you might find yourself when using just a regular conditional like an if statement. And here in Visual Studio Code, I have that example. And essentially what's happening is we have a variable of day assigned to a value of Monday, and we want to give back a message based on the day of the week. And so here you can see, we have, if the day is Monday, give back the message start of the week. If the day is Wednesday, say midweek. If it's Friday, weekend is coming. And if all else fails, go ahead and send the message just another day. And, this is a very small example, but you can start to imagine that if you had a lot of options such as this or even more, it can start to get pretty robust and messy pretty quickly. So an alternative that you can use and get the same, deliver the same message is a switch statement. And so if we console that out or comment that out and bring over this example, we have this switch statement, and it's going to look in a lot of ways similar, but it's slightly different in terms of the format. Now here we have the switch. You'll see that it gets back the same message that we just saw earlier, but now we're using switch instead of if in conditionals. So here we still have the variable, and we have, in this case, we are using switch. So to use switch, you want to declare it first, and then give back, we have the parameter or the argument of day, the variable we're putting into this switch statement, and then we have different cases. So how switch works is you have, whenever if you have a different bunch of options, those are considered cases in switch, and you can use different cases to give back a certain, value or, item, such as, sending the message in this case. So what we're doing here is, giving us a cleaner, more readable way to do the same thing, essentially. And switch in this example is going to check each case and find the one that matches. In order to get out of a case, you need to use break, the break keyword. And break is going to stop it from running the next case if it's, if it does go through. So break is going to be put there to stop going to the rest. And if none of these options work, you use default as the, all else fails message that you want to send. Now, with this idea of switch, I want to move forward to this idea of single page applications. So the cool thing with switch is that it starts to bridge the gap into single page applications where you can load content on the same page, load different content on the same page without having to, click on a link and go somewhere else to a new page. It's all happening on one page. That's why it's called single page application. And so here we have an example I want to go into. And essentially with this idea we have, and we can just close out of this, we can bring this over. Now here we have, and first let's just go ahead and expand this. We have a switch in JavaScript. We have a sandbox environment of, essentially just a list of links, a nav bar with a little bit of styling to, make it look a little bit nicer in the browser. And we have this list of links. We have home, about, contact, and then this page not found is just the default case that you can think of in a switch statement where, you might have a website with pages that aren't in your navigation, that don't exist. This is going to be that default case. And so here we have the links, and then underneath we have a div with an ID of app, and this is where we're going to render certain content based on the page that we want to display. And remember, this is all happening on the same page. This is not, you're not going to another page like, more standard websites you would build with HTML and CSS. This is all single page. And so if we go back to the sandbox JavaScript, you will see it here. We have the function of render, and we have certain routes that, based on the route, if it's home, about, contact, or the default, give back some content. In this case, we're giving back a heading in the browser. And so where we first select the div with the ID of app and get it in our JavaScript, and then we're going to spit back some content. And so here, if we see this, we click on any of these links, you will see that content's going to update like so. Now this is a very basic example, but essentially the idea is you could have, certain content based on the page, whether it's, if you have a home page, you'll have a different layout and different items that might not necessarily be on the about page or the contact page. You might have a admin backend that might not have the same components or these blocks of content that would be on the client side facing website. So that's the idea of Switch. Switch is, used to make tiny, simple single page applications, a simple website that's going to update content without having to reload, but it's not really meant for bigger projects. And so that's where, React comes in. React is a JavaScript library that helps you build dynamic, reusable components. It automatically updates your UI when data changes, and it handles routing, state, and much more. So that's really, Switch is just to get you exposed to this idea of loading content, and then you can later expand and learn, jumping into, React. React's going to replace the need for a manual switch logic, right? It has more powerful, organized system. It's great for apps that grow, and it get more interactive as well. So Switch is really just to learn the idea, to understand the concept, but React is, what most developers are going to use in the real world projects, you can say. So to recap, Switch helps you handle multiple conditions clearly and also organize, and it's a way to build very small projects of single page applications. As you grow, learning React is going to be that next step for you, and on this channel I'll be looking to have videos on the topic. So this is just a quick overview on Switch, and hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. But that's it for today. Have a great rest of your day.